My husband left me with debts for his mistress, but my 11-year-old son said, "Mom, I got back at him." And a week later, my ex called, sobbing and begging. That stupid eviction notice felt like sandpaper against Cassandra's fingertips. 3 months behind, it said in those awful red letters that seemed to scream at her from the front door. Oliver dropped his backpack right there on the porch, his sneakers squeaking against the concrete. Kid didn't even ask what the paper meant. He just looked at her with those dark eyes that saw way too much for someone who still needed help reaching the top shelf. Marcus had been gone since April, shacked up downtown with that Tiffany woman who probably spent more on her nails than Cassandra made in a week. The bills kept showing up though, like cruel jokes in the mailbox. Fancy restaurants, jewelry stores, some spa place that charged $200 for a massage. All on credit cards she'd never seen before, all with her name somehow attached. Bank account balance, $47 and some change. Kitchen table looked like a tornado hit it. Bills scattered everywhere, coffee stains on half the envelopes. Cassandra kept sorting through the mess while her coffee went cold, doing math that never worked out right no matter how many times she tried. Mortgage due tomorrow, car insurance already canceled. Oliver sat there eating his Lucky Charms, watching her face like he was studying for some test she didn't know about. Kid had this way of staring that made her feel like he could read her thoughts. Phone rang around 9:34, Marcus's name lighting up the screen. For maybe 2 seconds, her heart did this stupid flutter thing. Maybe he'd come to his senses, maybe he was calling to fix everything. But nope, just needed her signature on some papers, he said. Retirement account stuff, real important. He'd swing by tomorrow to grab his golf clubs and that watch she'd saved up 3 months to buy him. Marcus showed up right on time because he was always punctual about the things that mattered to him. New haircut, fancy shirt, cologne that probably cost more than their grocery budget. Tiffany waited in the car, blonde hair, perfect makeup, scrolling through her phone like this whole mess was just background noise. Oliver vanished into his room the second his dad walked in, but Cassandra could feel him listening through the walls. Marcus moved around their house like he was shopping at a garage sale, picking through his stuff with zero emotion. Golf clubs, the good watch, some books he'd never read anyway. Barely looked at her while explaining about the paperwork, retirement account transfer, clean break, easier for everyone. She signed without reading because what was the point? Her hand moved automatically while her brain went somewhere else entirely. Found her crying at the kitchen sink that night, tears mixing with dishwater while she scrubbed the same plate for the 3rd time. Oliver appeared beside her like a ghost. Kid moved so quietly sometimes. He didn't do that annoying thing where he asked if she was okay or tried to hug her, just stood there while she pulled herself together, then pulled out his tablet and started typing like his life depended on it. School project, he said when she asked, but his fingers were flying across that screen way too fast for homework. Later, she heard him whispering into his phone after lights out. Conversation lasted maybe 5 minutes, but it sounded urgent, focused. When she knocked on his door, he was already fake sleeping under the covers with that innocent expression kids perfect by age 7. Oliver dropped the bomb over breakfast 3 days later, casual as mentioning the weather. I got back at Dad, he said, spooning cereal like it was no big deal. Cassandra's coffee mug stopped halfway to her lips. The kid's face was calm, maybe even peaceful, but something cold flickered behind those eyes. When she pressed for details, he just shrugged and said she'd see soon enough. That answer made her stomach drop straight through the floor. Oliver had always been smart, too smart, teachers said, but this felt different. Calculated. He grabbed his backpack and headed out for school, leaving her alone with this growing dread that felt like ice water in her veins. She tried calling Marcus but got voicemail. Thought about calling the school, but what could she say? My 11-year-old made some vague threat? Yeah, that'd go over real well. Her phone started buzzing around lunchtime, notifications from Facebook, Instagram, people she hadn't talked to in months, all sharing the same video. Hands shaking, she clicked play. Grainy footage of Marcus stumbling out of some restaurant, face red as a tomato, people shouting stuff she couldn't quite make out. Someone had filmed him getting confronted by an angry crowd, and now it was spreading through social media like wildfire. Comments poured in faster than she could read, neighbors, old friends, people from church all expressing shock and disgust. The video was tagged with everyone they knew, ensuring maximum damage. Within a few hours, thousands of views. Her phone wouldn't stop ringing, but she couldn't handle talking to anyone. Just sat there watching her ex-husband's humiliation go viral in real time. Next blow came through her neighbor Janet, whose husband worked at Marcus's law firm. Apparently, someone had sent detailed information about Marcus's shady dealings straight to his partners. Not just the affair stuff, but serious business, something about client money and questionable transactions. Janet's husband wouldn't give specifics, but his face said everything. Emergency partners meeting. Security escort out of the building. Company car repossessed from the parking lot. Cassandra sat in her living room staring at nothing, trying to process what was happening. Oliver came home with grass stains on his jeans and this satisfied little smile. Soccer at recess, he explained, but those eyes held secrets that made her skin crawl. The phone call came at 10:30 Thursday night. Marcus's voice was completely wrecked, hoarse, desperate, barely recognizable. He was crying so hard she could barely understand him. Everything was falling apart, he kept saying. Someone had systematically destroyed his life. Bank accounts frozen, credit cards maxed with charges he never made. Tiffany had cleaned out his apartment and disappeared. Police asking questions about missing client funds. Career over, reputation ruined. He begged her to help, to tell him who could have done this. Voice cracking like a teenager as he pleaded for forgiveness, second chances, anything. Cassandra listened in stunned silence, staring at Oliver's bedroom door. Kid was supposed to be asleep, but light was seeping under the crack. Next morning, Oliver sat at breakfast scrolling through news articles on his tablet like he was reading the comics. Local paper had picked up Marcus's story, photos, speculation, the whole mess laid out for everyone to see. Oliver's finger traced the headlines with obvious satisfaction. When Cassandra finally found her voice, she asked him straight out what he'd done. Kid looked up with those creepy mature eyes and smiled. Just told the truth, he said, about Dad stealing from clients. About fake charity donations on tax returns, about bribes from contractors. All documented, all provable, all delivered to the right people at exactly the right time. Oliver had been collecting evidence for months, even before Marcus left. Smart kids notice things, he explained. They see patterns adults miss. The whole thing hit Cassandra like a truck. Oliver had been planning this for months, playing the innocent kid while systematically gathering ammunition. He'd hacked Marcus's computer, photographed documents, recorded conversations, created fake social media accounts to spread that damaging video. Even figured out how to contact Marcus's clients anonymously, feeding them evidence of their lawyer's theft. The sophistication was breathtaking and terrifying. Oliver explained it all like he was describing a school science project. Computer class skills, online resources, connections through gaming forums. Modern world gave smart kids access to tools their parents couldn't imagine. Marcus had dismissed his son as irrelevant background noise, biggest mistake of his life. Oliver finished his cereal and grabbed his backpack, ready for another normal day at school. Marcus showed up 3 days later looking like he'd been hit by a bus, expensive clothes wrinkled, face unshaven, eyes red and wild, pushed past Cassandra without asking, demanding to see Oliver. Kid emerged from his room calm as anything, meeting his father's crazy stare without blinking. Marcus grabbed Oliver's shoulders, shaking him while demanding answers. How had an 11-year-old destroyed his entire existence? Where did he learn to do such things? Oliver's response was delivered with chilling composure. Learned from watching you, he said. Dad had taught him that actions have consequences, that smart people plan ahead, that family comes first. Oliver had just applied those lessons better than his teacher ever did. Marcus's grip loosened as reality sank in. His own kid had completely outplayed him. Things escalated fast. Marcus's desperation turned into pure rage as he realized how thoroughly his son had betrayed him. He raised his hand to hit Oliver, but Cassandra stepped between them, her own anger finally breaking free. Told Marcus to get out, voice steady despite her racing pulse. He'd lost the right to discipline their son when he chose Tiffany over his family. Marcus stumbled backward, face twisting with frustration and grief. Begged Oliver to undo whatever he'd unleashed, to call off the forces destroying his life. But the boy's expression stayed flat. "Some things can't be undone," he said. "Some consequences are permanent." Marcus dropped to his knees, sobbing as hopelessness crashed over him. Clients wanted their money back. Law firm was pressing charges. IRS was crawling through his taxes. Reputation destroyed beyond repair. Over the next few weeks, Oliver's revenge revealed its full scope. Kid had documented every shady deal, every ethical violation, every instance of professional misconduct. Evidence was overwhelming and bulletproof. Marcus faced criminal charges, civil lawsuits, professional sanctions, law license suspended, assets frozen to prevent him from hiding money. Even Tiffany couldn't survive the fallout. She'd been mixed up in some of the financial schemes, her own reputation toast by association. Oliver had thought through every angle, closed every escape route, studied his father's weaknesses and exploited them with surgical precision. But here's the twist nobody saw coming. The investigation into Marcus's client fund theft revealed he'd been stealing money to bankroll his affair. Stolen funds were being recovered and returned to victims, including Cassandra herself. Restitution checks showed up on a Tuesday morning, made out for an amount that nearly stopped her breathing, more than enough to cover the mortgage, credit cards, all those mounting bills. First time in months, she could breathe without drowning. Oliver watched her stare at the check with quiet satisfaction. Kid had calculated this outcome too, she realized. His revenge hadn't just destroyed his father, it had saved his mother. Oliver understood that Marcus's stolen money would have to go back to rightful owners, including the family account he'd been draining. Kid had orchestrated justice on multiple levels, ensuring victims got compensated while crimes got exposed. The complexity was staggering. This wasn't some child's tantrum. This was strategic thinking that would impress a chess master. Marcus made one last desperate play. Showed up late one night looking completely broken. Lost everything: career, reputation, freedom, criminal charges pending, possible prison time looming. Begged Cassandra to forgive him, promised to make amends somehow, but she'd moved past forgiveness into something colder and more final. Told him Oliver had simply given him what he deserved, consequences he'd been dodging for years. Marcus turned to his son with pleading eyes, but Oliver's expression stayed stone cold. Kid had learned to see through his father's manipulation, recognize the difference between real remorse and desperate self-interest. Marcus's apologies were hollow, motivated by fear rather than genuine regret. Oliver had zero intention of showing mercy to someone who'd shown none to his family. Trial started 6 months later. Marcus's legal troubles had snowballed as more victims surfaced, more evidence appeared, more charges got filed. Oliver attended some sessions, sitting quietly beside his mother, while prosecutors detailed his father's crimes. Kid showed no emotion as witness after witness testified about Marcus's betrayals. He'd triggered these events, but felt no guilt about the outcome. Justice wasn't supposed to be comfortable, he explained to Cassandra. Sometimes good people had to do hard things to protect themselves and others. Marcus got 5 years plus restitution orders that would follow him forever. As they led him away in handcuffs, he looked back at his son one final time. Oliver met his gaze steadily, expression neither triumphant nor regretful, just satisfied that balance had been restored. 2 years later, Cassandra and Oliver had rebuilt from scratch. House was theirs now, paid for with restitution money. Oliver excelled in school, intelligence channeled into more constructive stuff. He'd gotten into programming and cybersecurity, skills that fascinated teachers and worried his mother equally. Sometimes she caught him watching news with that calculating look, analyzing corruption stories with unsettling intensity. She wondered what he was thinking, what plans might be forming behind those clever eyes. Oliver had shown her what he could do when someone threatened their family. She hoped he'd never need those skills again, but was grateful knowing they existed. Kid had saved them both in his own terrifying way. Proved that even children could fight back when adults failed them. Some lessons, Cassandra realized, were too valuable to regret.